All right, Be Your Elite Podcast, episode 9. Changing things up just a little bit. No guests, no co-host, just me here sitting solo. If this is your first time joining us, man, I'd really just like to thank you and express a whole bunch of gratitude that you made your way here and just happened to be listening to this today. My name's Dave Hall. If you haven't heard my story, go back, listen to episode 1. Deep, heavy. I was going back and listening through some of the podcasts, editing some little short videos. And then I started going through and reading emails, Facebook messages and DMs from Instagram, just this amazing response, this kind of, it took me back a little bit that, so many people resonated with that story. I mean, as me and Danielle sit down and we kind of talk about where we're at and where we come from and, the way our year started off and how, we got to where we are today, it's, maybe it's a little bit of arrogance to where we just think it's unique. And there is some uniqueness to it. I mean, I don't think that there's, a lot of stories like that, but, to not recognize or even acknowledge the fact that there's a lot of parallels with that story in the way people relate to it. It may not necessarily be, their partner may not be having an affair on them. They may not be, suffering depression and some mental illness. It may just be something else. And I think that's one thing that, as I was sitting here journaling today and I was like, man, let's just sit down and podcast what's running through your mind right now. So first off, all the people that sent us messages and text messages and direct messages and emails, showing just vulnerability to even people that we know and people we don't know. It's almost complete strangers just reaching out to us and thanking us for telling us our story. That means the world to us. I mean, I don't think that we would ask for anything more. This isn't, we're not setting out to try to change, 10 billion people's lives. Someone hears that and really we wanted a place to kind of get out the thoughts that are in our head, to allow us to continue to grow. This just creates a space for us to just continue to explore our experiences and continue to talk them out and continue to dig a little bit deeper in them and peel back the layers, deeper and deeper and deeper. And one thing that was really kind of sticking out to me, as I was sitting here writing and journaling was this strength aspect. I did a post a couple of weeks ago about, people are stronger than they think they are. And essentially I wrote in there, fear is the scapegoat to prove your weaknesses. So just kind of listen to that for a second. And this is something that's I've been dwelling on this, and it's almost been driving me nuts because I've been trying to figure out a way to articulate, how our fears are driving our lives and how there's so many different overlapping areas in our lives that we've got to start pulling them apart, compartmentalizing these things and figuring out who we actually are. We've got to start defining that for ourselves. And it's a tough conversation, man, because right there when you hear that thing, fear is the scapegoat to prove your weaknesses. And I go to follow on with that by just saying that these weaknesses, they don't exist. They're not real. We create these illusions and there's a million reasons why. It's to protect ourselves. We've had traumatic experiences that we never processed and never dealt. So we put up, walls and barriers to help protect us from that same situation ever happening again. And that's where you start going down this weird tumbling effect of like life is happening to you instead of for you with that mentality. If you're not processing all these these shitty things that are happening to you, because I promise you, don't get trapped into that space to where I thought that our story was so unique that nobody has those feelings. Nobody else has that going on, because it's just not the truth. And so I kind of wanted to, initially I wanted to just I wanted to dive in with this conversation that, I believe in you. And then I kept trying to formulate in my head, how am I going to convey that to people, that why I believe in you? Well, it comes down to that strength that resides inside human beings. And this is something that weighs on me so hard, because I have so many people that I talk to where they're afraid to do this because of X, and they don't want to do that because of this. And they're telling themselves that they're weaker than they actually are. And then I've had to sit back and almost time travel in my own life and find a whole bunch of gratitude for the situations that I've put myself in. Going into the special forces, deciding to open my own business, building this website and putting my entire life out there. They've taught me such a crazy amount of resiliency. And if back when I was 18 years old, if you would have I just thought I was a normal 18-year-old young man. I didn't think I was any different or any special than anybody else. So I haven't been blessed with anything, physically or mentally, that puts me above the next person. What I was given and what I have taken for granted is the ability to look at things that scare me, things that create fears, and just do the shit anyways. And I can't tell you why. I don't know why I initially took that first leap, but it takes something big for you to build trust within yourself, to taking a leap of faith on your own, internal strength. I didn't know I had that until, I joined the military and I decided to, go to the United States Special Forces Selection and Assessment. I went there unprepared, probably not as physically fit as I should have been. I was middle of the pack the entire way. But there was just something there where I just kept waking up every day and was just like, man, if you just kind of keep your head down and just keep moving forward, there's a chance you can finish this thing. And I clung on to that little chance there, instead of just saying that chance wasn't enough for me to keep moving forward. And the funny thing about that is there was 480 guys in my selection course, and I think 100 and some change finished, and they selected 60 of us. So don't get me wrong, there's a bunch of people that failed certain portions of that, so they were just out academically. But there were a lot of guys that we would just wake up in the morning and the bunks would be empty. So they for some reason lost that glimmer of hope and that little seeing that there was an actual chance, if they just kept putting one foot in front of themselves, and they just kept doubting how much strength actually resided within themselves. So they never actually put themselves in the situation to test where they were actually at and what they were trying to do, what they were actually capable of. So I'm not saying that, everybody needs to have their Special Forces selection course or the qualification course to go out and be a Green Beret. But I would challenge you to find something that pushes your fears, so you can start building trust within yourself of getting past each one of those, putting yourself in situations where, and it's the simple things. You hear people all the time. They're like, I signed up to run my first marathon. Man, that terrifies a ton of people. And it's hard and it sucks and it tests you mentally every day that you have to get up and go run. But you start building these little pieces of trust within yourself. And as soon as you conquer that, you realize, holy shit, man, I'm a lot fucking stronger than I thought I was. And then you reach out for something a little bit tougher. Now, the people that fail down this path, and I hate to use words of failure in the sense that they either give up on themselves or whatever, is that they don't complete the marathon. They get hurt. they lose the silver lining of what it was actually trying to teach them, and going out and figuring out, do I have what it takes to push past adversity? Because you are going to fail. I know a bunch of guys that went to selection 3 times and didn't get selected until the 3rd time. And then I saw them midway through the qualification course because they didn't get selected in my selection class. And I was like, oh shit, man, you went back. That's amazing. It's the people that face those failures and go, okay, just because I failed it doesn't mean I'm going to fail it forever. And then understanding that, moving through life, accepting failures for what they are. And this was another thing that I was wrapping my brain around, and I was trying to figure out a way to articulate this thing that, if we treat life as one of our employees, what did you hire life for? It's like, I don't know why I was trying to figure out a way, some kind of metaphor, some kind of analogy that, people can kind of wrap their brains around. But I'm in a partnership. I'm in a business contractual agreement with life. It's not doing shit to me. I mean, it is 100% working for me at every turn. Now, is there times where I start questioning our partnership? 100%, man. I think we wouldn't be human if we didn't sit down and try to figure out, what the fuck is this thing doing? And we start getting wrapped down this road of, man, I don't deserve this. Why is this doing this to me? And this is a funny thing because I joke about this all the time. Life doesn't give a fuck, man. It doesn't care about what you deserve. So if you go into it with a partnership, you can start changing your perception of the agreement and the expectations that you guys have towards each other. And so for me, the partnership and what I have for life, I didn't hire it to be my oppressor. So that instantly puts me in a space to where I'm not a victim anymore. Shit's not happening to me, and I'm not, trying to find, every reason why I can't continue moving forward. I use life as a teacher. I've hired it, and I've gone into a partnership with this motherfucker for it to only be one thing: my teacher. It is constantly teaching me. And as long as I'm sitting in that, then I'm constantly moving forward. So now, this agreement, they're clear expectations that every time something happens for me in life, and even if you want to say it's happening to me, I've got to step back and be like, okay, the agreement that I walked into with this bitch is that it's here to teach me something. What are you trying to teach me right now? And that right there allows me to sit back outside of my own bullshit and quit creating all kinds of weaknesses that don't even exist and start trying to find things that I can build upon. Was this trying to teach me a little bit more resiliency? Was it, trying to give me a gift of mortality? We use that one, soldiers especially. We've all lost somebody in combat. I mean, I wasn't there personally, but I've had a teammate that was killed in Afghanistan. He was a good friend of mine, and fuck, man, that day still crushes me, 7-8 years later. But, instead of me just sitting there and asking why life took, this 25-year-old amazing human being that has so much more to give to this world, that gift of mortality, seeing that it can be taken away for somebody just, serving their country and doing something that they feel is honorable within their life, and they were chasing a deeper purpose, something higher order. And that teaching me a lesson in that moment, instead of me, going down this rabbit hole of it should have been somebody else, or there was a lot more shitty other people that probably deserve something like that. He's not going to get the opportunity to be a husband. He's not going to get the opportunity to be a father. He's not going to be, a business owner one day. Fuck, he's not going to be able to sit down on a podcast and have a conversation with somebody and share perspective and life experiences. So, that's taught me this lesson that every day when I open my eyes and I take a breath, that's a gift, and it's a fucking miracle. It's a miracle with all the potential ways for something traumatic to happen to you in your life that, statistically speaking, the majority of the time it's good. Air in your lungs, food in your belly, the company of your kids, of your wife, of your best friend, of your mom, your dad, whatever it is. I hang my hat on relationships really heavily. But without you sitting back and understanding, the strength that resides inside of you, defining who you are, and start peeling back all these layers and stripping away the pressures of, what you think people think you should be. This is where people can start opening up a connection of loving authentically. And this is a scary place for people. Nobody wants to sit back and start creating honesty and start calling bullshit on all the weaknesses that they're putting in front of them, calling them fears. And look, man, I'm not sitting on this podcast just saying that I'm not afraid of anything. Because fuck, man, if I'm being 100% honest with you, sitting in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, and shitting out the thoughts that are inside of my head, stuff that I've written down on this journal right now, had me nervous as all hell to just get going and get moving forward. And just in this specific moment and instance, but what I'm going to learn about myself when I go back and listen to this conversation is going to teach me so much shit that I didn't even know about myself. Because even now I'm trying to stay in this present moment and read off these bullet points inside this journal. But I'm stepping back and I'm hearing myself make certain comments and express certain emotions and feelings that I have within inside myself, my own fears and the things that I fall back on as far as strengths, what I value. And it's getting me into a space where, I want to continue to peel back those layers, and I want to continue to figure out what this connection internally looks like for me. How much stronger am I than where I sit currently right now? And I'm not, you can call this arrogance, you can call it ego, you can call it pride, but I don't back away from a lot of shit. There's not a lot of things that scare me enough to where I don't do it. And I hope you don't see that as arrogance. I hope you don't see that as confidence. I hope you just see it as an unbelievably curious human being that has been given the gift of going out and putting themselves in a situation that only 1% of the military even does, which is only 1% of the population anyways, would actually go out and test themselves to try to figure out where they actually sit mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and been given that gift to understand, like, holy shit, what I thought wasn't even fucking close. I was so far away where I thought that I was, and I was so much more capable than what I was giving myself credit for. And then it turned into like this weird drug where I had to continue to challenge myself everywhere. If I had some curiosity around some kind of business idea or, a conversation with my wife, taking my kids out to, my daughter wants to start in this mountain bike riding club. And I said, man, fuck it. Let's see if mountain biking is a part of our life. We go out and we buy mountain bikes and, we get on the trail. My wife's terrified. My daughter's terrified. We're all terrified. Nobody wants to wreck on a fucking mountain bike and eat shit. A good buddy of mine invites me to go do Brazilian jiu-jitsu with him, Tim Kennedy. And I was fucking scared shitless, man. I mean, this is what he does as a profession. He fights people in the UFC for a profession, And he's asking me to come to this class where I'm completely out of my element. And he comes to me afterwards and he's like, man, fucking so proud that you were willing to step out of your comfort zone and come here and do this Brazilian jiu-jitsu class with me. And I thought it was weird because I'd like to think of myself as a typical SF guy or just a typical person that if, somebody invites you to come do something that's, an extraordinary experience, that we jump to the opportunity. And it's not true. Because I could have sat down and I could have created a whole bunch of weaknesses and used my own fucking fear to convince me that I shouldn't go into that situation. Like something crazy was going to happen. What was it? Was I going to die? Was I going to get embarrassed? Was I going to get choked out by a girl? Yeah, I did. I got fucking armbarred and rear naked choked by a girl. So the thought of that and the embarrassment of that was gonna prevent me from going into a situation that taught me more about myself in a 1 hour class than, what I'd been searching for in 6 months. So this is the crazy thing to me is that, back to our fears, back to our strengths, back to our weaknesses, what are actually truths? Which ones are illusions that we're trying to sell ourselves to keep us from doing the things that actually bring us happiness and joy and peace? And we create these walls and these barriers. People are like, oh man, you just mentally just break down these walls. No, I just don't even put them up to begin with. Now, yeah, if they're there, you got to break them down. Or you got to climb over them. You got to go around them. You got to do something to get to the other side to see what's there. But I think ultimately get into a space where you're not even building fucking walls anymore. So back to the idea that I believe in you. Something that I wrote on, and I got more feedback about that post. And it was funny, I wrote that post 4 years ago for my CrossFit gym. About how I don't have everything that I have in my life. I don't have the successes in my life. I don't have the relationships in my life because I sat back and waited for these things to be gifted to me. I had a belief in myself, and I had a belief and an understanding and an agreement with life that if I went out and created what I was looking for, if I created the right emotions, if I created the right situations, that I didn't need anything given to me. I just needed opportunities, and I knew I was going to be prepared for them. And I was going to hop on different experiences to teach me things to make me better prepared for the opportunities that were going to come my way. So again, I believe in you. And the reason I believe in you is because of the strength that resides in the human spirit. The strength that everybody is ignoring, and I can't fucking figure out why. I mean, we've identified fear as one of them, but why is the fear being created? These are the questions that we've got to start asking ourselves. Is it pressures from our parents? Is it pressures from our religion? Is it pressures from our jobs, from our spouse? What conversations are we hiding from? What type of language are you creating in your own head and the way that you speak to yourself in your own head? Is it because remember, language doesn't have to be verbal. It can be body language. It can be your internal language inside your own head, subconscious language. It could be conscious language. Are you mindful of all these different pieces? Which ones are you ignoring? Which ones are you shutting out? It's a scary, scary thing for people to be ignoring the strength that resides inside humans. Because the fear of embarrassment, the fear of judgment, the fear of this is what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in all this bullshit negativity that's being projected out there. Well, I can't do this because of that. I can't do this because of that. Someone told me that this wasn't good enough, so I had to stop it. I don't believe in any of that shit. Because out of all the countries that I've been to and all the continents that I've been to and all the cultures that I've seen, there's light and there's dark in all of it. And here's something that I know universally across the board. That love trumps all of that shit. It trumps all the darkness. You know, I mean, crazy shit. You know, in Thailand, being offered 10-year-old girls as prostitutes. Fucking disgusting. It disgusts me. And it's probably, you know, from a father and a husband perspective, as dark as it absolutely gets. But then I end up in the jungle on the floor getting a traditional tattoo from a tattoo artist that's got his wife cooking dinner for us and his 3 kids running around and his dad, the monk, standing over the top of us. And that light outshadowed it. It lit so much brightness into the darkness of that country that I saw on that little cab ride. And those little encounters and those, you know, me going back in time and peeling back the layers of, you know, what did I focus on? What did I get myself actually learning from? And how did I apply that internally into my own shit? And it always came back to the more I loved myself internally, the more I searched for self-love, the more I kept that in the forefront, the more it lit up all the darkness in my life. And I lost sight of that. And I created a whole bunch of fears on why I couldn't forgive my wife. Instead of just sitting in that moment, loving myself for who I was and who I'd become, loving her for who she was and who she had become, and letting that light up all the darkness that I was manifesting and creating in my own fucking shit. So again, this is why I believe in you. Because I've seen strength in every situation, in every human, in every experience that I've ever encountered. And I've seen people that have been defined incapable of certain things rise above all those challenges. And you shouldn't be looking for examples for that shit. You should just know it resides inside of you. I know you feel that shit. So I believe in you. And I believe in you because I've seen it uncompromising across the board, across this entire world, across this entire nation. I've seen it in my own home. I've seen it in my kids. And I've seen it in each and every one of you. So the question is now is, have I convinced you enough to where that's actually being said in your own head? You know, if you're listening to this right now, you're riding in your car, or you're sitting in your bathroom, as you hear me say, I believe in you, look up in the fucking mirror and make that your conscience saying that from now on. You shouldn't need Dave Hall on the Be Your Elite podcast to try to convince you that you have everything you need to find all the peace, success, and happiness and connections in your relationships that you're looking for. It sits right inside of you. You have all the strength to create everything you want inside of you. You have the strength to create your own emotions. You have the strength to feel what you want to feel. You have the strength to change your situation. Quit letting fear be your scapegoat. Start listening to the stronger voice inside your head and quit silencing that motherfucker. I hope we spread a little bit of wisdom there today. I hope that got you guys thinking about where fear sits in your life, what walls you're building because of it, what illusions you're creating around weaknesses, how you employ life. Is it your oppressor? Is it your teacher? Is it your giver? Is it your partner? And what strength are you ultimately bearing in your inner self? And how much more love do you need to start creating internally to outshine all that darkness that you've created in your own life? And I hope with all of that, we've tried to bring a little bit of thought, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of knowledge to start getting you to move in the direction to create within yourself the mindset and mentality to be your elite. See you next time.